relax a little bit more. And one of the beautiful gifts and grace and vulnerability. So appreciate that. Cool. All right. So I wanted to share a story with you guys to set context for the call. It's a story that I just love, about a retired English teacher named Jane Juska. One day, Jane placed an ad in the New York Times book review that read, "Before I turn 67 next March, I'd like to have lots of sex with a man I like. If you want to talk first, Trelope works for me." She got lots of responses, and it changed her life. There were a lot of interesting and insightful things about what she did and the way that she did it. First of all, she didn't put the ad back in the part of the newspaper, Men Seeking Women. She put it in the New York Times book review because she was a retired English teacher. She loved reading books. She loved literature. She wanted to have sex, yes, but with intelligent men, right? So this ad there really stood out. The other interesting thing is that Jane was born in 1936. She grew up in a world without the pill, television, mobile phones, rock and roll, and social media. Women didn't talk about sex. So Jane grew up, got married, had a son, and got divorced. And like many divorced women, she thought her life was over. Well, at least not her life, but her sex life was over. And she continued to teach and just like accept it as it was. And then she retired. And when she retired, she realized that unless she did something about it, her future was inevitable. This was how her life, her world would end. So she decided it was now or never. And she did something that changed her future. She had so many responses to it. She ended up writing a book about it, about her experience, and the book really changed her life. The book was called A Round-Heeled Woman, and I love this. It was a reference to the Victorian description of a lady of easy virtue, a woman who would lay on her back so quickly she must have round heels, right? She knew you only get one life, and she had one last chance, use it or lose it. She knew she had to disrupt things. She had to disrupt the inevitable future that she didn't want, right? And we talk a lot about disruption and disrupting the future in coaching, right? We talk a lot about it, that we want a future other than what we're experiencing, but we don't always do that much about it. Not really. We just do something like slightly different and nothing that we can't predict the outcome of. And what stops most of us is the fear of what other people think, right? The reason I love this story so much is that I can relate to it, to relate to the fear of what other people think. I cannot even imagine myself putting an ad in any paper like Jane did, right? And I love that. So it really got me thinking, what are the other things that I'm not doing in fear of what other people think? There were lots of people that thought what she did was disgusting. There will always be those people, right? But if we listen to those people, and what Jane realized when she did this is that though other people's opinions don't really exist. It's only what we think their opinion is. And so the thing that's really getting in the way is not other people's opinions, it's ourselves. So there's a lot of great insights and lessons with this, right? Not just about sex. It's about facing a fear of whatever stops us. And most often for most people, that fear is going to be of what other people think. It's what's in our, right? What we think other people will think. But everyone is going to treat us according to the confidence that we step forward with whatever we do, less about what the action is. Can you imagine if Jane would have asked everybody's opinion first before she did place the ad? Everybody would have said it's a terrible idea, right? She would have got tons of no's. She wouldn't have done it. We can't be disruptive if we constantly seek other people's permission. No one can see anything truly disruptive being successful before it's done, only afterwards. And when it's successful, everyone agrees it was a good idea. I definitely had that experience to the story. Oh, that's a brilliant idea. I'm even sharing it in this. I love this story, right? I would have told Jane it was a crazy idea. So our life and our work will be as exciting as we make it. The only thing that stops us is our opinion. If we can learn to ignore ourselves, we can do anything we want. So that's the context of the call today. And I want to ask a couple questions to everybody. And if you have pen and paper, you may want to write this down. What would you do if you really didn't care about anybody else's opinion? And a similar question, just sometimes it helps if you hear the question in a slightly different way. So what are the other people's opinions holding you back from? Maybe a better way to ask that is, how are you holding yourself back? In what ways? What are you holding yourself back from? Specifically. And third question, whose opinions are interfering in your dreams the most? And I want to just like brag a little bit that I took a bite of my Trader Joe's peanut butter cup because I was about to, and I thought, oh, I can't do that on a call, but how can I even think that when I'm talking about fear of other people's opinions? So I was in it. It was awesome. So there we go. Mm-hmm. All right. Emily and Heather and I are going to play. I'm just going to coach them one at a time. I might bounce back and forth, and I might pause and play with the group a little bit. As I coach them, we might coach on something that came up around this, but it could be something really different, right? I want to introduce Emily and Heather because I asked them to come play with me. This is the first live free coaching experience that I am doing, and I wanted to play with a couple women who I know could play really strong. And I was just in Victoria, BC with both of these ladies at a really incredible leadership training. I've known Emily a little bit longer than I've known Heather. And Emily grew up in the personal development world and is just somebody that represents constantly committed to playing at her edge and playing a really big game and not just and it's not a big game in service for her. She has a commitment to being the change she wants to see in the world. I've always loved that about her. So I just, yes, adore her. And, both of these ladies I haven't coached, I know, very much. We've kind of played together in different trainings and stuff. And so I also wanted it to be a little bit fresh like that. And Heather, we did this leadership training together. And then Heather and I, the very last, after it ended, as we sat together, we sat for almost 2 hours and just felt like it went by in 2 minutes. getting to dive in. And it was like, oh my gosh, you are such a sacred sister. You know, this is somebody who's intelligent and driven and, you know, has made a huge impact in the corporate world, doing, I might say this wrong, is it social HR or is it, oh, website. Oh, okay. Strategic. Okay. Yeah. Strategic HR. So she feels like, you know, really focusing on the culture, which I think that is so leadership and coaching. And, you know, she stepped out of that world to come into coaching, and she does a lot of leadership trainings. She creates online programs. She is somebody who is also committed to also playing to her edge and doing her work and diving in wholeheartedly. Both of these ladies, what I love about them is they are no stranger to being uncomfortable, and they don't shy from it. They welcome it, and they do it so gracefully. So as you so authentically and vulnerably. And I couldn't think of two more amazing ladies to play with on the first, to kick off this experience. So thank you for playing. I know that this process will really serve everybody. So cool. So and I want to say just a little bit about the deep, fearless coaching work that it's really the world that Heather and Emily and I are all from. Our commitment is in this container is serving versus pleasing. One of the things that I'm really committed to and when I put on the coaching hat is serving versus pleasing. And one of the ways that I do that is it's a very intuitive process for me. I am committed to not withholding anything that comes up for me. I'm not attached to being right. I am attached to not withholding it if it could be of service to you. So a lot of times I might say, hold on for just a second. I'm closing my eyes and really going in and seeing what's the next best place to go. So I'm going to actually do that right now just to see what's the best place to start. And I welcome Emily and Heather as we're playing together. Actually, so, you know, I coach one person at a time. If I'm coaching you, if you have an intuitive hit or something comes up, I know these ladies play full out and don't hold anything back. So I want to really welcome that into the space too. So if something comes up, please don't withhold either. So, actually, before I start, Emily and Heather, is there anything that you want to put into the space for the container to feel that you feel is needed to play as big as you can or want to?
I'm in gratitude to be here and to work with you in this way, because we've never really done this in this capacity before. So yeah, I'm in gratitude, and my wish is that that however I'm able to contribute selfishly, I want to get something out of it, and in my way of being, I hope that it is a contribution to everyone witnessing and watching.
In the true spirit of exactly how I spoke of her. Yeah, cool. Awesome. Anything for you, Heather?
No, mostly just being true to what is in the moment, because my sense is I had some thoughts when you were talking about doing it right. And so I want to dismiss that thought, because there is no right, but that's the go-to place of sometimes showing up in a way that's not serving myself or anyone else. So
I love it.
I love it. Right.
There's so much power in outing ourselves. And Emily and Heather and I got on the call together 5 minutes earlier, and it was really great to do that. And I actually ended up outing myself to all of you guys, just that, 2 eyes, I'm not safe, right? And there's just so much power in that. And thank you for modeling that so beautifully, Heather. All right, let's play. Cool. All right, so I'm just going to kind of see where we should start. Hang on one second. All right, Emily. What would make this a really powerful conversation for you?
For me to walk away with something that is not predictable, and something that something simple and concrete. What I love about that story is how simple putting an ad in is. It didn't take her a lot of time, it didn't take her a lot of money, and it was a really big, bold step.
Yeah.
And if I could get my newspaper ad today, that would be incredible.
I love that. I love that. Your news. Let's put that out there for everybody on the call and anybody watching the recorder, that everybody gets their newspaper ad. I love that. So what is predictable for you?
What's predictable is that I will play full out. I will be edgy. I will out myself. I will be like the kick me when I'm down. I can take more. Or I won't do anything. So I'm very much an all or nothing personality, kind of the way I live my life, the way I run my business, the way I parent, the way I love. I'm so all or nothing. And I don't necessarily think that finding a middle ground is my answer. I don't know. I just know that about myself. So that's what's predictable, is that I will be balls to the wall with this process, or I will completely retreat and next week won't even remember that we had this conversation.
Yeah. How might that get in the way of you getting your newspaper ad?
Because neither of those things, well, I suppose they'll be concrete in their own way, but I won't feel like a course correction in this call. And I'll keep that out.
You'll keep that out, yeah. So what would a course correction look like?
So I was thinking a little bit about this, knowing that I was going to be on the hot seat. And I think it's like an A, B, or C. I don't have the C. Maybe that's where you come in. But the A is potentially like, you know, we've talked about before that and right now I'm just noticing like, oh, don't sound too braggy. Don't sound too like.
Right on. Okay. And now that you outed it, please brag.
Okay. So I recorded an album last year and I'm doing my first show on June 14th. That's fucking edgy. I've never been in public before. Being in studios, like a whole other thing.
And first of all, like, awesome. You recorded, like, that is so cool. I think as successful women, if we brag, we'd like brag and then rush to the next thing. So, I mean, can we all, like, would you guys mind unmuting yourself for just a moment and help me celebrate with this incredible woman? She just released an album and that's huge. And you, yeah, will you guys unmute yourself and just, can we do that, Emily? Is that all right?
Yes.
Okay. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Yeah!
Yes!
Go, Emily! Yeah! Yeah!
I have shivers.
Yes. Yes.
Ladies, thank you so much. Seriously.
Yes. And Cynthia just, she had to sign off right now. She has a client, so she was saying goodbye, but okay. Okay, so that, I love that. So the course correction looks like.
So the course correction is like, I'm doing all these things. I just launched my first 2-day intensive. I just ran my first retreat a couple weekends ago. Like I really am playing and putting out. And so I don't know if it's the course correction, but when I was thinking about, for me, it's either like stop and don't do anything for a while. Right. And that feels super freaking edgy. Like that's like, I don't even know what to do with myself, which is probably like where I need to go. but I've also like, I do know that
I want to pause for a second. What do you experience when you do nothing?
I'm never doing nothing. Like, can we ever be really doing nothing? I'm a mom, you know, if I'm not doing something, there's a mental component or mental real estate being taken up by that role. A wife, an entrepreneur. So if I'm ever doing nothing, I'm still being very active.
And I want to pause for just a second. Can any of you on the call relate to that edginess of like not doing anything, doing nothing? Yeah. In our Wealthy Women Now Masters Circle, our mastermind group, we're in September having our next retreat, our intensive, and it's Face Your Fears. And the first day we're going to go face our fears, rock climbing on a mountain. And the last day we're going to face our fear of doing nothing. So yeah, I really, really get that. Mm-hmm.
And it's been coming up for me a little bit. Like, I will take all astrology or, you know, things in that what's the word? Like psychic realm, if you will, with a bit of a grain of salt. And I don't know if you're familiar with human design. It's like been out since the late 90s. And apparently, as in a human design chart, I'm what's called a generator. And the generator like literally can sit back and like wait for the phone to ring, which just is like, no, you can't do that, right? Like, we're just trained, you can't do that. And that's like, would be my idea of doing nothing.
To just sit and wait for the phone to ring?
Yeah, or Adam, my coach, who you know, that, you know, if you go to like a networking event, for example, that you still go to the networking event, but you don't initiate any conversation. You wait for people to come to you. And so it's like, that's the edge for me. So it's not necessarily like doing nothing. It's kind of like showing up, but certainly not forcing anything, certainly not initiating anything, and literally being the generator.
Yeah. Ooh, I really feel that. I'm going to ask you a question, and then I'm going to move to Heather for just a second. Because I actually want to ask you this question and have you sit in it for a moment and then come back to you. So let's just say you go to a networking event. You're in a group, and it's there's so much potential and there's so much possibility in the room and there's so much excitement. What would be the worst thing about sitting as a generator? I see it as a genie too, like almost like the genie. But like sitting there as the generator, I actually want you to kind of put yourself in that and like what comes up for you. So as I work with Heather, like put yourself in that generator, in that scene, and what's all coming up for you. And I'll come back to you. Heather, what was coming up for you as I was talking to Emily?
So interesting because as with Emily, I'm a totally all or nothing human being, although I would say that I have shifted that quite a bit over the past few years with that awareness. But I'm just the opposite in that I like by nature, I'm an introvert. And so it's funny because I was having a conversation with Adam just about that, and it was the total opposite, right? It was like going to an event and kickstarting the engagement because my nature is to go to the event and be like, I can be in the midst and be by myself. And there's lots of energy around that for me, and that my story would be quite negative around that for myself. Like I should be different. I should be different. And fact is I'm not.
So you would sit back very easily and do nothing, but have a
Yes.
lot of inner judgment around it.
Totally. Yeah. Because like more so, especially in this phase of trying to create a new business, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking that that's not helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And yet I would say fully aware that that's my comfort zone.
Yeah.
Right. So
yeah.
Interesting.
I want to pause you for just a second, just to pose that to the group. Like, how many of you can relate to what Heather talked about, where that experience of going to a group, not engaging and beating yourself up about that? Can anybody relate to that? Mm-hmm. It's interesting that you can too, Emily, that, you know, so it's, and I love the beautiful dichotomy of both of you guys in this, because they're actually kind of two sides of the same coin, what both Emily and Heather are experiencing. And it's such a beautiful representation. It's one of the things I love about doing group coaching is you get to see more to the picture. And so, cool. So Heather, what should we really talk about? Like, what's the thing that, if there weren't other people on the call, we would talk about this? What's that thing?
I think that something that's been popping up for me a lot lately, and it relates to, you know, stepping out of the corporate world and stepping into creating a new career is, it's like a phase of life. And so it was funny, last night I was having a group coaching call with a bunch of women in my new course that I just created. And we're talking about, you know, age and change and the story around, you know, you're too old to change, which I don't believe at all. And that because my whole life has been about change, but it's interesting because sort of I'm in this place and I heard something or I read something, you know, some saying, and I thought, oh, I have to print this off. And I'm looking at the side of my file cabinet because I printed it off and I stuck it up there. And it says, note to self, you are not too old and it's not too late. But it's really interesting that this story has popped up because it's never been something present ever. So it's just interesting, and I'm not sure. I think it's connected to a sense of urgency.
Yeah. First of all, I think there's no coincidence that this story is popping up. I think there is, right? And this doctor that I mentioned that I'm hosting right now here at Wealth Factory, he does quantum neuro reset therapy, and he, so interesting. But he was saying, you know, the conscious mind, there's two parts of the mind. There's the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. And if you look at it kind of like it was a computer, the conscious mind can process 40 bits per second. And guess like how much the subconscious can do in relation to that?
I don't know.
40 million bits per second. So you might say, I don't, like logically, I know this, that it, you know, too late to change isn't true, but this 40 billion force of, you know, a coding for that, because your subconscious mind is programmed for, like, it is two things: avoid pain, move towards comfort. Right. And so it creates all of these codes from reaction. Right. And so those coincidence of, oh, this is I'm not sure why that's coming up for me. I believe that it's part of the subconscious, like a pattern that was working for you in the past, like is exposing itself. What comes up for you when I share that?
I'm not sure. It's really interesting because I think what keeps coming up for me is that it's like it's new presence in my thoughts, my being, but it's like what I just said to you about it's never too late. Like, I don't believe that, or at least I don't think I believe that.
Mm-hmm.
But somewhere there's this knock on my head that's saying, time is running out.
Yeah.
Gotta go, gotta get it done.
Yeah.
Which pushes against really what I want, which is more ease. If that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. And it makes a lot of sense that if you're wanting a lot more ease and this urgency thing that's coming from, probably a subconscious code. Yeah. Right. And so that makes a lot of sense. Tell me more about what you want.
Oh, to win the lottery? No.
We laugh, but really, is that true?
Would I take it? Sure. No.
Yeah, but that's not really what you want. If you had a choice to win the lottery or this other thing, I have a feeling in just a little bit that I know about you, what you choose.
Yeah, no, what I really want is, I want to create income. I want to create, at the same time though, way more space, because moving from where I was to where I am, now it's like I have to do everything by myself. And I'm very capable and very competent, but it takes so much time, and which equates to me to space in my day.
Yeah, tell me more about the space, way more space. Like, I can feel, even in the way more space, I felt a really big exhale, even in that, energetically.
Yeah, like I want to be able to do more. I look at Emily, nothing. And I am extremely driven person. So doing nothing equates to being lazy. And so, but I want the space to go on a holiday, to sit in the backyard with my partner, to learn how to play chess with him. Those kinds of things, which I don't make time for because I'm always working, which can be a point of friction.
Yeah.
Or, and I'm always in my head, I just need to do this, and then it'll be better.
I was going to ask you that, because I was going to ask you, when you say that you don't make the time to sit outside with your partner or play chess or go on holiday, like, by never, do you mean you never go in your backyard? Never?
No, but I can tell you, I'm still pulled in two ways.
Yeah. And that was my curiosity, is that there's a lot of times when we say we want way more space, so that we can go on holiday and just do nothing and just do that. It's like, even if you had this space to do it, if you went tonight and sat in the backyard, it would probably feel the same. Like, there wouldn't be the space. Is that right?
Right now, probably true. Yes. And, I think that's been my life. Like, when I went to university, I lived my life in 4-month blocks. Right. But part of it too is, there's a sense of, urgency around income, because, I went from a 6-figure income to, a third of that. And so they're connected to that is, an urgency around, I need to carry my weight.
So what, I'm going to kind of laser right in, just because of, for time. So Heather, what would be the worst thing about it actually taking so much time?
What would be the worst thing?
Mm-hmm.
You mean about getting to where I want to be financially?
Yeah. Well, you said the sense of urgency of, like, I've got to hurry and get over there, wherever there, you know, and over there is the spaciousness of,
Yes.
you know, the holidays and all of that.
Yeah.
I got to hurry and get there. And that's associated with an income of 6 figures or more. Like, I get all of that, but what would be like, what's the worst thing about not being able to hurry and get there? Like, what would be the worst thing about it taking twice as long as you even hope?
Then I feel like I'm crowded in this place where I am right now, where it's like work, 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 work. Because in my head, that's what's going to get me there.
You're crowded. So that's the worst thing, is that for like a really long time, you are in this like crowded, like drive. There's no breathing. There's sitting in the backyard, but not sitting in the backyard. There's going on vacation, but not really being on vacation. All of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that.
So no time for living.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, like I like doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But it's narrow.
Let me ask you this. How are you getting in your way? Kind of in the context of the Jane Juska, how are you holding yourself back from creating the space?
I think it's really connected to the belief and the habitual pattern of sort of an embedded work ethic in my life, that if I'm not working, I'm not driving myself to that end goal, whatever that end goal may be. It may be anything. And
Let me
so,
ask you this, Heather. Have you ever gotten to that end goal in your life ever, where something was enough?
momentarily. I would say momentarily.
Okay, I'm going to pause there. I'm going to pause there with you and go back and play with Emily for a little bit. And I, just kind of pose this to the group, and that, can you relate? Like, what places, where is the drive ever enough? Mm-hmm. Right? Because if the drive is filling a bucket that it's like you can't actually fill, there will never be enough, right? Too. Mm-hmm. So. All right, Emily. How you doing, generator?
I'm doing great, thank you. I'm thoroughly enjoying this process.
What's coming up for you?
Yeah, like when you said the bucket thing, I mean, I resonate totally, and it's a bucket with a hole in the bottom of it, right? There is no actually filling it up, that it's actually a shift in your way of being. And yeah, do you want me to share like kind of what I got from what I was thinking about?
Yeah.
So I actually really appreciate what Heather said about the being introverted and then beating myself up, right? And I raised my hand because I can do that as well. So what I got out of that distinction was, there's a difference between me going and being like a sovereign queen in the room versus me going and not doing anything and beating myself up and being introverted, right? From the outside, my physical appearance or stature may look the same, but what I'm doing on the inside would be completely different. And so to be in that sort of queenly sovereign state would be like creating magnetism, having powerful eye contact. And I had initially wrote down knowing that I can't, and then I crossed it out and said, don't want to sit still. So being in that discomfort of like, I want to work the room, I want to walk around, I want to distract myself, as opposed to just choosing to be there, and not being there from an introverted beating myself up place, being there from a queenly sovereign magnetism place. And it's a little bit more detailed, just got into like, when I would engage with people, my questions would be short and like succinct and powerful.
Yeah.
It's just the queen energy is really coming.
I love it. I want to pose this question to the whole group, and very specifically to you and Heather, because it's what's the bucket? What is the bucket that you're trying to fill up? Is it worthiness? Is it smart enough? Is it fitting in? Is it like, what is the bucket?
So mine's a double-edged sword. I know right away what it is. And it's dying with as little regrets as possible. Which can be such a fuel and a driver sometimes, and also the opposite of it can be the distractor and take you out of what's really important.
Yeah, I always say in the Soul Purpose program that I take our Wealth Factory members through, we go over core competencies to really identify strengths. And I always say, too much of a good thing isn't a good thing. And that is a beautiful, I really ambition. I want to, dying with as little, I don't want to have any regrets, as little as possible. And that has really served you. I can see, just knowing you do have such an outgoing, you make stuff happen, you create extraordinary experiences in your life and for others. And then, but the too much part is it's the sovereign state is one of stillness and I want to acknowledge you for being sovereign in this moment. I can really feel it. Heather, what is your bucket?
I don't know. I don't know. What keeps coming to my mind, keeps coming up, is disconnected. So I think that sometimes, like, I really am in that place of just doing, but not connecting. And sometimes it's absolutely conscious, and sometimes it's not. So,
was one of your essence words connected? Connection?
I don't remember. It's really interesting because it's a bit like one of my greatest, I often mention being introverted, but one of my greatest strengths is being introverted, in that I am oftentimes extremely present and in the background. Sometimes there's, I feel like I'm so able to support. So coming from a coaching place, I feel that's an asset.
So interesting, Heather, because actually this speaks to even our relationship and how we got to know each other, right? That whole 3 days, we barely connected. And, and I found myself, we both found ourselves a little surprised when we finally sat down to talk with, oh my gosh, there's so much here. This is, wow. And had we not had that moment, we wouldn't even be here today, because we didn't have a chance to connect. And I am really curious. Actually, I would guess, because I would venture to say, take a stab at truth and say that you are connection. Part of your essence of being is connection. I could feel that with you when you made it accessible to me. And so that makes perfect sense to me, that your bucket is connection. It could be connection. It's, did you have an early childhood experience of like getting kicked out of the club?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Me too. That's actually what I had my quantum neuro thing on about. So that's why I don't like more than 2 eyes on me. So yeah.
That's so interesting. Yeah. And it was at a crucial time in life at like age 13. And it was very public.
Yeah, mine too.
And it's so interesting, because that came up a while back when I was doing a program on women's leadership with another coach. And I hadn't thought about that in years, and hadn't thought about the impact on me as a human being at that time. So as soon as you said that, that's the first thought that came to mind for sure. And so it is a safety mechanism.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We are biologically designed. I'm listening to this book on audio, by the way, a really cool app that Gabby, my assistant and really good friend, she introduced me to, called Scribed. You guys know about this app? I'm saying this on the recording because I want people to know it's really cool. $10 a month and unlimited books, like you can read or listen to. So I'm listening to this, A Brief History of Homo Sapiens. And it talks about that thousands of years ago, there were about like 5 different varieties of humans on the planet, which I think is fascinating. We come from Homo sapiens, all the others. We're the only ones that didn't become extinct. We survived because we have a gene code for fitting in. Our grandmothers and great-grandmothers, great-grandfathers, great-great-grandfathers were the best of the best fitter-inners. I made up word. I like making words, right? The best of the best fitter-inners, right? And so, because our ancestors that didn't do so good, and all of the other Homo varieties, they didn't have that code. They weren't as inclined to come together as a tribe, and they became extinct. So that's a real, when we get, I had a similar thing, Heather. That's why I kind of like was feeling you there with that connection thing, because I do the same thing. I was recognizing it. So when we have an experience, and mine happened at 15, publicly humiliated day after day in junior high, I learned very quickly that I had to adapt and conform and fit in, and that women, especially pretty women, are a danger and a threat to me. So it's actually really, you guys are all a threat to me right now. You're all gorgeous, successful, beautiful women, and you know, it creates that thing. And so in that adaptation of how we adapt, we learn to create this safety zone. I kind of call it like living in the in-between, where we'll stand out, but not too much. I'll be successful, but not so much, because that's on the other side of fitting in and safe.
It's the tall poppy analogy.
The what?
The tall poppy analogy. Have you heard that? So in the poppy fields somewhere in Europe, I don't know where it is, or somewhere, I'm not going to claim to know where it is. There's poppy fields, and if there was any poppies too high, too tall, they get chopped off so that the poppy fields can remain like pristine in their height. So it's called, they say, like what you just named, there's like a thing called the tall poppy syndrome. Like can't stand too tall, can't be too proud, can't, or else you'll.
And guess what, guys? If we're human, we all have our version of that. We all have our version of what's the in between, what's our tall poppy, like what is, you know, too high, or, you know, we all say that we want to be successful and we want to, you know, make millions of dollars and have economic independence and have this freedom and have a huge following and all of these things. We all say we want it. I want the yacht, the private island, that stuff. But we also like that's what we say consciously we want, but subconsciously we say we want to fit in. And guess what? Because it's safer to fit in. And if we've had a real threat in our life, an experience of not fitting in, getting kicked out of the club, then we're going to consciously and subconsciously do anything that we can to never experience that again. And so we adapt and create patterns and internal codes, operating system that help us create this in between. And so we're living in this code of don't become too tall of a poppy, don't grow too tall. So we can say we want that consciously, but the 40 billion bits of drive towards this, like don't get too tall, is going to override. So you can never get there because you know, like over here, because the thing is everything that we say we want is on the other side of fitting in. Which is circling right back to Jane Juska, right? So Heather, fitting in was, if standing out was safe for you, what could you do?
Anything I wanted. Yeah, because, you know, like just on a very small scale, part of what I'm struggling with is that reaching out, and which is connected to the possibility of rejection. So not around the coaching, but around my consulting piece of work that I do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know that.
Yeah.
And yet,
And it's all the same stuff. Coaching, consulting, reaching out is reaching out. What reaching out is reaching out is getting out of the comfort zone and going into the standing out zone.
yes.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And it's, I don't know, it's like the consulting work is just more prescribed. It's not, you know, it's like, it's a product, right? So maybe it isn't, but I mean, it's like compartmentalized that way for me. And so it is about that.
I'm gonna pause you because I want to see if I can help you just expand your comfort zone a little bit more beyond fitting into standing out. Because if we could help you get just a little bit more comfortable today with standing out, how would that impact your life?
That might be much more exciting.
Yeah.
That sounds funny, but seriously, probably.
Seriously, probably. Yeah.
It would be more in action in a different way.
More in action in a different way. Okay. So can you give me one example just to really make it real here so we can really create a shift for you possibly? What would that action in a different way actually look like? What's the thing that you could do?
Well, it is all about connection. It's about making that connection. And making that connection requires me to, I don't know about stand out, but stand up and reach out.
Mm-hmm. So is there somebody that you'd love to reach out or reach up to very specifically that you have in mind that you have?
A specific organization, not a specific person, yes.
Okay. But the specific organization is one specific person to reach out to, right?
There is one in there. Is that what you said? Sorry.
Yeah. Cause it's interesting.
Sure.
It's interesting even how you're looking at it. Like, oh, I have to reach out to this whole big organization, right?
No, but yes, I have to get the window in. I don't know who the person might be.
Mm-hmm,
right.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
So it's, finding that person inside that. So what's the organization?
Well, it's a medical association. So it's doctors.
Doctors. Okay. And what's the name of it?
Well, it just changed, but it used to be the Provincial Medical Association. But I was looking it up, and then I realized, oh, they've changed their name. But off the top of my head, I can't remember what that is. But anyways, I have it written down. So was there any level of discomfort or fear or anxiety about even just voicing it publicly? How I want to reach out to this organization right now?
Just as you said it.
No, I don't think so, because it's in my mind to do, but I haven't done it. So
okay, I was asking because you started to kind of speed up and talk right after, and that's what we sometimes will do to just mask our fear. That's what I do a lot. So.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And what's really interesting, if I can turn it on its head, it's like I have something that's really valuable for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so you're withholding something really valuable from somebody because of this fear of, is it fear of rejection? Is that what it feels like?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
It's the what if, right? Like,
yeah.
And it's not like I haven't experienced it. So
yeah.
At all.
So what's when you experience rejection, what do you make that mean about you?
Not worthy, not good enough. And I mentioned this to you before, and it's just really pertinent right now, is that you know, to know that that's not true. And, you know, the more you get into the coaching world, the more you have those awarenesses. And so it's like intolerance for myself around that type of thinking, because I know it's not true. But it is.
But it's still like the subconscious still likes to play that, you know, that's the button that it likes to push for Heather, so that you can stay fitting in where you're going to be less likely to be publicly humiliated again.
I've never made that connection.
So I'm not good enough. Is that the song that it likes to sing to get you stay there? Or is it I'm not worthy? Which
I
one's
would
more?
say, I think it's more I'm not good enough.
Okay.
If I was to choose between
And
the
has
two.
that I'm not good enough pattern been in your life? Has that been a pattern?
Yeah.
What's your earliest memory of I'm not good enough? It's like just the first memory that pops up, or like a
family. For sure.
Does it go back to that thing, 13?
No.
Not that.
No.
Before 13?
Yeah.
The thing that you experienced at 13, though, did that make more evidence for I'm not good enough?
Totally.
Yeah. And then I'm not good enough, I bet, actually started kind of working for you, pushes you and protects you. Is it part of the drive?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And it protects you. It's part of not becoming too tall of a poppy. Yeah. Mine's my favorite survival mechanism song is I'm Stupid. I believe we all have kind of a root one, a core one.
Yeah.
It just works because it works. It's how our subconscious can get us to get comfortable by its standards as quick as possible. It only knows that we're safe when we're comfortable.
Right.
There's an analogy I share that that makes a lot of sense for me. The analogy of a monk on a very important journey. And on his journey, he gets to a river that's wide and deep and he can't swim. So he spends a great deal of time building a raft, collecting wood and twine. And when it's done, he's able to hop on it and successfully get to the other side. It worked. It was true. So the next part of his journey up ahead, he's got this mountain he's got to climb. Is it going to serve the monk to carry the raft up the mountain?
No.
But that's what we do. No, you experienced an event traumatic in your life. And so what trauma is anything that overwhelms the senses and we don't have the capacity to cope. And the way that we often cope in a trauma is we make a belief or we build a raft that makes that situation make sense. And it's just like, oh, well, that makes sense. I'm not good enough, right? That would make sense why that happened. And when the belief is developed in trauma, it's wrapped in fear. And so anytime we build a raft in fear, it's going to have an essence of fear, doubt, or worry, or the self-limiting connotation. Now, I believe that we're all here on a spiritual journey, and in our spiritual journey, we're going, that raft that we built out of fear will become obsolete. Mm-hmm. And do you almost have a sense, Heather, that you're climbing a mountain with a raft on your back?
Yes. I mean, I can get that for sure. That sense. Yeah.
And the mountain that you're climbing it's the space. It's being able to go in the backyard and sit with your partner and actually be there. To go on vacation and actually enjoy it.
Mhm.
I'm just going to check in really quick. What are you experiencing right now, Heather?
Some release. Um, some discomfort.
You're not fitting in right now. You're standing out. You're a tall poppy. And I really want to acknowledge you in that. You literally look different to me.
Let's say, I was going to say not in a good way.
No, in a beautiful way, in a really beautiful way. I'm thinking what I want to do, just for the sake of time and the service to everybody, is I want to take you just a tiny bit deeper with this, Heather, to transmute this belief. This is something that I do, and it's kind of like in that analogy, we're going to turn the raft into a walking stick. We're not going to turn it into a helicopter with like metal and something other than what it is, but we're actually going to turn it, it's almost like, so the term that I use for the survival mechanism I really like is monkey mind, because I have come to see it's not such a bad thing. Like I like, monkey mind. And so I call it monkey mind Aikido. It's like pulling it in towards us. And turning, I'm not good enough. Some of the people have described it who've gone through this process as it turns into a superpower.
Okay.
Would you be interested in turning it into a superpower?
Totally. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. As I take Emily through this process of transmuting it, I want to invite everybody that's listening, if you have a belief that you want to play with in this process, a belief that that is getting in the way of your mountain that you're climbing, then play with it in the same way. Emily, do you have a belief that maybe comes up for you? That something around, huh?
Yeah, mine is, I have it, just give me a sec. Mine is I'm too much. Stop showing up.
Okay, I'm too much. Okay. All right, so let's just take a breath.
Two sides of the coin there, Emily.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, my dear.
Yes, okay. And then let's all close our eyes and take that belief of I'm too much or I'm not good enough into your head and just experience it in your head. And in your head is your logic and the linear, the thoughts, the memories, where you can really, in conversation where we've been most of our time today. Can you identify that you're in the head? Now, can you identify that this belief, as you experience it in the head, really where it was born, that it's all about you? And it's you against them. It's you against the world. Can you identify that? Cool. Now from the head, drop down to your heart. And into the heart, pull up one person who comes to mind that you feel a lot of love for in the morning, morning moment, and maybe mornings too. But just one person, so that you can really focus on this one person and let your love for them fill up your heart. Emily and Heather, nod when you have your person. Just as you focus on your love for them, let it begin to fill up your heart for just a moment. And nod if you can feel your heart space getting fuller and maybe even warmer. Did it quiet your mind just a little bit? So we just use love in this heart space to transition to your soul. So from your heart, drop down to your soul, your place of infinite truth, all-knowing wisdom. Can you identify being there? And perfect. This is a place where all your answers reside, where you have access to universal truth, infinite. And so from this place of soul truth, just peek up at that head's version of I'm too much and I'm not enough. And just from your soul truth, look at the head's version of that. Is that even true? No. Super clear. Now drop this belief down into your soul and let your soul hold this truth, embrace it. And ask your soul to show you an exquisite truth about I'm not enough and I'm too much. There's something almost exquisite about that truth. It's the highest vibration and version of that truth. You'll know you're there when you feel this huge surrender of like, oh my gosh, I wasn't supposed to be Superwoman. Oh yeah, I am too much. I am magnificent. And this version, your soul's version of this belief, it will connect you to all. Can you feel that? Can you feel that? That relief? And so the belief transmuting process that I do, it's taking that belief and letting your soul change it into a version of it that's truer, that's exquisite, that will serve you powerfully. It's like taking your survival pattern, your monkey mind's favorite toy, and turning it into something that's really going to serve you and not hold you back. And I like to use as much of the same words as possible. Sometimes it's exactly the same words. I'm stupid. So mine, I'm stupid, my head's version shuts me down and makes me play small. My soul's version of I'm stupid is like, it almost uplifts me. It's like, oh, I am stupid. Of course I'm going to work with the best coaches and teachers in the world. Oh yeah. And it helps propel me forward with enthusiasm, not out of fear, but more out of, oh yeah, what a relief. I'm stupid. I get to learn from everybody and everything. Can you feel that? You're smiling, Heather. Emily, can you feel that transmuted belief? I'm too much. Oh, yeah. I am too much. I am perfectly too much. I fit perfectly into this expansive universe of too muchness. I'm too much. Of course, I'm okay standing out. Of course, I'm okay being a tall poppy. I'm not good enough. Of course, I can stand out. I'm not good enough. Anyway, hell, I could Jane Juice it all day long. I'm not enough. I have nothing to lose. So Heather, what are you experiencing?
Lightness and some humor around what you're saying. Because, you know, if it's in my head, it is negative, for sure. And when it's in my heart, it's not. It's not real.
Yeah. So when I do this process with clients, I encourage them to take your walking stick and put it to use. So can we put yours to use really quick, Heather? So with the walking, because the more you use it and you create action in association to it, it creates this belief now means this for you. And like, I'm stupid used to hold me back like no other mother. Like it would push me and protect me. Now it is it is one of my blessed companions. Like, that's why I was at the training with you guys. Like, I'm stupid. Of course I'm going to go learn from as many people as I can, but it's not going to push me in a way like how it used to push me in trainings is I would show up like, oh, I'm stupid. Like I would be closed out. Now I'm stupid. I'm so excited. And like, sometimes I have conversations with a know-it-all where they're, talking, and I just smile and I'm like, I'm so glad I'm stupid. I don't close out. I get to learn from everybody. Right. It's just and the more that I use it in that, like I use it intentionally, my monkey mind has no chance with me using it to hold me back anymore. It tries other things and it's still there, but that one doesn't work anymore. And now I'm using that as a walking stick because the mountain that I'm going up can really use I'm stupid in that. It's really serving me powerfully. Mm-hmm. Right? So I'm not enough. With the walking stick in hand, Heather, how could you reach out to that? You want to work with this organization. Your the gift that you have in leadership could be incredible for them. I'm not enough from the soul. How can that serve you in making that connection?
Well, just what comes to me is they are not enough without my serving them with what I have to give them, which will enable them to be better and be enough in the realm of that work. And I can see that. And so to come from that place is empowering versus defeating.
Yeah. I've worked with a couple of their clients who also have I'm not good enough, and they feel that are also leaders. They feel it's such a relief. I'm not enough as a leader is such a relief because it just enables the calling in of support. Mm-hmm. Not like you can't do anything on your own, but you don't have to be perfect at it, and you can step into vulnerable leadership more exquisitely. Leading from a platform is like you'll fall off, but when you lead, peer to peer, like kind of that circle energy, which is the feminine way of leading, right? It's that I'm not enough is I am human just like you. I've got a few things that I've really figured out about leadership that I can think serve you powerfully. Mm-hmm. And you can really relate in that way to helping them identify from that place where you can relate where you've been. Right. You can talk about that vulnerably from I'm not enough from the soul. I'm not enough from the head. It's really hard to talk about it from that place.
Yeah, and I feel like that so much of the people that I've worked with in the organizations, they are, what's interesting is they are all operating in isolation from one another, which is interesting. Really
connection. Yeah. So I would encourage you with this walking stick in hand to play with I'm not enough with connection. And my intuitive hit is it has a lot to do with vulnerability. Because you talk connection is vulnerability is the gateway to connection. And so, and a vulnerability in leadership, you take the first step forward first.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah. No,
and just experiment with a walking hand and stick is, can you be more vulnerable? Can you make, step out to make connections, from that soul vulnerable place.
Mm-hmm. Instead of the head.
Yeah. Because your head wants you to stay here.
Totally.
And your mountain is in the not fitting in area.
Yeah.
But the soul is totally good not fitting in because it knows that you're not enough, just like everybody else. And so it knows you belong. Mm. With everybody else who's not good enough.
Yeah, totally. Which is everybody.
Everybody, yeah. Cool.
Yeah, so true. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Emily,
I think I'm too much as my walking stick becomes like deep contribution to people. And I got even like, if I'm too much and that's triggering something in someone else, like it's actually pointing to their work. Whether they want to see it or do anything with it or not, that's fine. And I get to be fully self-expressed in honor of having as little regrets as possible before I die.
I love it. I love it. And I almost see your walking stick as like a sovereign staff.
Mm-hmm. With like a juicy gem.
Totally, totally. And so how would your sovereign staff in that challenge of doing things differently, of doing nothing, like being in that networking thing, how might that serve you differently to create something different?
Like what came to mind, and I know this doesn't sound right, but it's like for me to be like more pushy. But I guess what I mean by that is maybe being more bold in my sovereignty. Like, it's like kind of waiting. This is what I'm picturing is like waiting for somebody else to open the gate. But once you open that fucking gate, you better watch out.
I got it.
You gotta open the gate first.
I love that. I feel that. So in that sovereignty, like I'm too much, you can absolutely be I'm not too much in stillness and steadiness and do nothing in I'm too much and be in your beautiful sovereign beingness. And then when the person who's drawn to you knocks at the door, then you're not going to hold back.
Right.
Did anybody else, like hearing that, make you want to knock on Emily's door? Anybody experience that? Emily, I can so feel that.
Yeah, I can too.
So you started our conversation with, what would be really incredible to get is your newspaper ad. Mm-hmm. So what is your newspaper ad? And I'm asking everybody this too. My hope was like maybe everybody can get their newspaper ad.
My newspaper ad is keep showing up and wait for my door to be knocked on. Like make sure that I show up to the party, but make sure the kingdom knows I'm in my castle. And
how will you know you're doing that?
Because I won't have that like chasing force feeling.
And if you get that chasing force feeling, is there something that you can do to sit back into your sovereignty?
Probably just literally like stop whatever I'm doing and go and do nothing for a minute.
Boom. I just feel like giving you a high five.
More than a minute.
Yeah. Yes.
For the rest of the day.
Well, until you're in your sovereignty, because in your sovereignty, it will guide you knowingly, not from a place of, having no regrets, in a place of this is what must be done.
Yeah.
It's a really different energy, and you know that distinction.
Yeah, I can feel it for sure.
Right on. Right on. So I'm going to ask Heather, and then I'd open up. I'd love to hear anybody else who wants to share what their newspaper ad is, if you have any questions. But Heather, do you have...
3, so I'm going to have to wrap up in 2 minutes.
Okay.
Don't get a chance. Thank you, guys.
Okay. Yes, Liz.
Thank you, Emily.
Yes, thank you, Em.
So I just wanted to, not just wanted to, what just came to me was the urgency is related the urgency is related to stopping holding back. It's like
Can you also see how the urgency is coming from the head's version of I'm not enough? Because the head is, it's part of the way that it pushes you to it's like to prove, it's sort of the armor that you put on so that the world won't find out that you're not enough, is the push and the drive. And now there's urgency because you're getting older and you just changed careers and you got to hurry. Because if you don't hurry, they might find out that you're not enough.
Well, it's interesting because I'm kind of feeling different in that the urgency is related to, it's urgent to stop holding back. That's what I'm feeling. I need
urgency has an energy of fear.
Interesting. Okay. Okay.
Because in the soul, like there's no urgency. Like the soul knows that in my not enoughness, I am all is well. The soul experience all is well.
Okay. I appreciate that and I understand that, and I'm still getting
the urgency.
Yeah, but around allowing the wholeness of me to be present. If that connects.
Is it urgency or is it desire?
Maybe it's desire. Definitely it is desire, but I feel an urgency around it. I'm hanging on to urgency there.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. Well, and that's to identify that the urgency is there. But urgency is not, urgency is a fear-based incentive to get you to hurry.
Mm-hmm. I understand.
And when you hurry, you get in the head. Going fast, we're in our head and we're just operating from reaction to reaction to reaction. And so desire can be more of coming from the soul, and it has no agenda to time. It actually, the desire is complete in and of itself. It doesn't even need to be fulfilled. It just loves being the desire. The presence of desire helps move us forward, and not at a pace of urgency,
at
a pace of getting to be with and enjoying the journey. Like you've been in that place, even in just this call, we've been dancing together. There was no urgency, or was there?
No.
Did you feel an urgency to arrive? We were just kind of like enjoying the process and the journey, right?
I wouldn't use the term enjoy.
Mm-hmm. But I know you.
I don't like that emotion, right? So,
yes. Mm-hmm.
Because it's uncomfortable and it's vulnerable. So it's not a place I like to live in.
Yeah.
For sure.
I really acknowledge you for, really want to acknowledge you for standing out.
Thank you.
Especially in the presence of beautiful women. I don't know, for me that was a threat. I don't know who your threat represents, but
not so much people, but that being seen.
Yeah,
for sure.
Because where you're going, you're going to be seen.
Totally. Yeah.
And the more, the safer you can feel with being seen, the more space you'll create. I would venture to say that the crowdedness that you're experiencing in your life right now has everything to do with not wanting to be seen in a world where your soul is requesting of you to be seen, to contribute and make an impact. And so it's the friction of the two that creates the crowdedness.
Yeah, I think that's very true.
And so I would encourage you to play with this walking stick of I'm not enough, and find, if you can find in that dancing with that vulnerable connection. Actually, Heather, that's why I created Wealthy Women Now. It was my solution. It was, and I have this belief, this is actually something that I'm going to be doing in a future call coming up. My new obsession and fascination is your pain is your purpose and your message is your medicine. Mm-hmm. And so my pain came from that public humiliation, getting kicked out of girls were a threat to me. So I am called to create these women's gatherings and talk about this concept of sacred sisterhood, because sacred sisterhood is my medicine. It's my message. Because of the pain of getting publicly humiliated by the girls, I'm threatened by it. And so when I'm threatened, I've got to, if I have the medicine, then I'm constantly growing in it. So it is, I really do believe that our calling in life moves us forward to create the medicine from our pain. And yours has everything to do with connection.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
So I'm going to be taking in a future call. I have somebody who's willing to kind of work with that process. We're talking to her that is like to really dive into discovering the pain is your purpose and your message is your medicine. It's kind of a long process I take people through. So I'm going to try to kind of find a way to play with some people here live to show how that process works. Because I think there could be something there for you.
Hopefully, yeah, okay. For sure.
Cool. Julie, you're the last. Thanks for being the last one standing. I know we're a few minutes. Everybody left. I know. But I just want to check in with you. What came up for you? Oh, I can't hear you. I think you're muted. Heather, do you need to run? I know we're like 5 minutes over.
No.
Okay.
Okay. So can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
So I learned a lot. So that was great. Took lots of notes and wrote down all the thoughts that I had that came up. And Heather, I want you to know that we share one really big thing in common. And it's this big hurry up, got to make money, hurry up. I started my business late in life and I'm 59. And I feel like if I don't hurry up and make money and get money in retirement. So I'm the same. Even when I'm not working, I'm thinking I should be working. And it's keeping me from really enjoying my life.
Right.
Did you get any insight in the process for yourself, Julie?
Just the insight of that's me too.
Yeah.
And that I'm not enjoying my life, and not being really in the present. Oh, and there was something you said, Demi, about fear. It's a fear-based incentive, and yeah, so that really
there's two drivers in our life. Survival and greatness.
Right.
And part of that greatness, contributing to others, making an impact. Those are the two drivers, and it's fear and love. And when fear is ruling our life more and more of our behaviors are a result of that fear and survival, we're not going to be enjoying our life.
Right.
Totally.
And our actions are coming from more of that greatness and impact and contributing to others and love. We're going to be enjoying our lives so much more. This really leads to that pain is your purpose, your message is your medicine. My new obsession, because I really do think that's one of the best ways to surrender in. And I've been recommending the book, The Surrender Experiment. All of my new one-on-one clients, making them read that book before we begin, because I'm wrapping all of our work around that process. Because one of the things that we do is we work on message and really distill out the message. Because I have this intuitive hit that, see, what happens is that this greatest pain of your life you experience, and your survival mechanism, the part that keeps us alive, our good fitter inner genes. We figured out very quickly how to adapt so that we never experience that again. And so we'll do anything consciously and subconsciously to avoid that, anything that feels like that ever again, for better or worse. And so fear moves us away, but also love is moving us in a different direction. And it's the message of love moving you in a different direction that starts to become your medicine. It's your message. And it is, one of the places that I start with clients is first identify what their core stand statement is. What do they absolutely know to be true in life? And it's kind of the template that I use is I stand for, I believe, I dream of a world in which, Julie, I've done this with you. I wanted to work on it a little bit more with you. Once you have that core stand statement, this is like the wisdom of your life. This is what your soul has, the wisdom that you've gleaned, and it will have been in direct relation to that pain. But you know, because you are moving in a direction of love away from that wisdom, right? And so that statement speaks to everything that you've learned from that. And so then when you go with this statement, I used to do these statements for clients for years before I realized the relationship to the pain. I didn't realize it. And then I started playing with this concept. And it wasn't until I started working with a TED Talk coach where she helped me define and refine my message. It was once I had my message refined, I was able to go back through my life. First, I went to my greatest pain. And that was the story of getting kicked out and publicly humiliated. I didn't see how that had anything to do with my coaching work. I thought that had everything to do with my yoga world. And I told those stories there. That when I actually looked at pain is your purpose, in 1 week, I saw pain is your purpose in those 4 sentences so directly at me. 1, a speaker, 2 books. I had to look at it. And I knew it was that story, but I didn't know how it related. And then when I looked in that context, I said, holy shit, I'm doing women's work. Oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. How I have been called to do that. There's this really interesting thing that I'm also noticing this pattern. And I think that you guys might be able to relate, is that the people that have this message are the leaders the world's been waiting for, I really believe. And I call them wolf-like leaders because they don't crave leadership. They don't want to be standing out. But they will do it when they see it must be done. And there's a lot of these leaders rising up that see that it must be done now. And they're taking steps forward even though they're not comfortable with it. That's the way wolf packs do it. The alpha doesn't want it. He just does it when it sees it must be done. And they resist being the message because they don't do it perfectly. And here's the beautiful thing. It's because they don't do it perfectly and they take their medicine that they are the best person in the world to speak of it. Because they can speak from a place of vulnerable leadership, go right to the hearts of people who need to hear that message and really connect. Does that relate? Do you feel that, Heather? I can feel that with you.
For sure. Yeah, totally.
And Julie, you and I have talked about this. We're kind of playing with this. So. Thank you so much for showing up and playing. So the next 2 calls are not on July. It's the 2nd Tuesday of the month because it's 4th of July. I can't remember if it's the 7th or 10th. And then I think it's August is the first, not Tuesday, the first Wednesday of the month. And I'm going to play a little differently. I might, on one of them, I'm just going to work with one person to kind of play with this pain is your purpose, your message is your medicine piece. And then just play differently every time. So thank you so much for showing up for this first one, and love you guys.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.